when I decided to do a paper for this, my limited vocabulary, I didn't even know what a symposium was, so I googled it, and it said eat, drink and talk. So those three things, some of my favourites anyway, so it was fab. But the first topic that I touched upon was the personal impact, the impact that British Art Show had on me. So to me, there are some combinations in life coming together, if you like, whether planned by coincidence or accidental, which cause great excitement and uncharacteristic public displays of joy amongst the normally reserved British people. British tennis player in the final of Wimbledon, World Cup football match between England and Germany, a sunny day on the bank holiday Monday, snow on Christmas Day, politician telling the truth. Okay, so I might be stretching things a little too far, but you get my drift. So you would think that a British art show being located in a town where you just happen to be studying an art-based qualification would rank fairly highly on a list of coincidental collisions, at least amongst the art students themselves, wouldn't you? And then, as if the coming together of these two distinct but supremely complementary elements wasn't enough, it turns out that one of your tutors on the course you're studying is actually involved in the running of certain parts of a show, a British art show ambassador no less, and as such extends an invitation to we already deliriously excited students to actively take part, almost like proper fully-fledged artists. Well, you tell me how often two, let alone three, random occurrences combine in such a positive way. Sure, on the negative, doom and gloom side of life, it happens all the time. Late for a meeting, punctured tyre, pouring with rain. The work colleague you detest the most, which is mutual, gets the promotion you wanted. He now becomes your boss. His first job is to draw up a redundancy list of the department. Britain leaves the EU. The Americans elect Donald Trump. Tony Blair re-enters British politics. Okay, so again, the last combination could never happen in reality. But you know what I mean. When has a three or more pronged twist of fate ever come down on the positive side of things? The kids are on a sleepover. It's your birthday. Your wife has been watching a Jason Statham film and is feeling just a little bit unnecessary as you walk in the door after attending a work colleague's funeral, the guy you detest the most, and you're wearing a dark suit, white shirt, black tie. Yeah, it's never going to happen. But for the students studying art and design at Southampton City College, it did, in the autumn and winter of 2016. Studying art in Southampton, BAS8 in town, and the uber enthusiastic and encouraging India Lawton as one of our tutors and BAS8 ambassador. Boom. Well, it was for me, but for others more of a at best, like accidentally letting go of a balloon during mid-inflation. And actually, the mere fact that as a released balloon takes flight, it emits a farting sound, which is eternally hilarious from a male viewpoint. Even this metaphor overstates the lack of enthusiasm amongst my student peers. Maybe it's because my life is generally so devoid of excitement and stimulation that the merest hint of something positive is given such immense status. Or maybe it's because I'm older than most other students and I realise that these opportunities are unlikely to come my way again, whilst I'm still able to remember my name or find my way home at the end of an evening. I must admit to feeling a certain degree of disappointment towards the lethargic attitude of my fellow students, but it is what it is. So anyway, I put that aside and I attend as many BASA events and shows as I'm able, given the fact that I live on the Isle of Wight and it cost me £16 plus for a return boat trip to North Island. And as I immerse myself in all things creative, in the galleries, pop-up exhibitions, street performances, to name but a few, I start to become more and more aware of the comments of those around me. Comments, in the majority, appear negative, mocking, judgmental, and some might say, blinkered and narrow-minded. So, I'm feeling really superior and self-righteous, because of course, I wasn't being judgmental, blinkered and narrow-minded. Or was I? And so I reflect on my status as a member of the audience and begin to question my own ability to view the work without bias and prejudice, to set aside my preconceptions and opinions, and in all honesty, I can't. I may achieve greater level of acceptance and impartiality than some, but my view of the art, and actually of anything, is shaped, nay, tainted, by my previous experiences and learned or instinctive biases. It's kind of like watching a football match. A crowd of tens of thousands might gather all together to watch the game, but in reality we all see a completely different and unique sporting spectacle. For me, having played football to a reasonably high standard in the past, if a player fails to control a passed ball, I might be more critical than my great Aunt Betty, who has never kicked football in her life. And again, for me, the striker taking a dive in the opposition penalty area and being awarded a penalty completely goes against every sporting bone in my body. Whereas my brother, who stood next to me at the game, who cheated regularly at snakes and ladders in our childhood by dodgy counter movement to miraculously avoid the snakes and climb the ladders, accepts this out and out cheating as just part of a modern game, and there's no problem with it at all. We view the world around us as a reflection of ourselves. I know what I like, and I like what I know. Pie, chips and gravy for me every time. However, as far as art is concerned, I apologise for the answer. As far as art is concerned, I like to think that I'm reasonably open-minded. Maybe because I create art myself and put it out there for the world to see, to like or dislike, to understand or be challenged by. And as one that allows my precious creations to be torn to shreds by the ignorant masses, to expose my most private emotions and innermost soft tissue to the knife-wielding public, I perhaps give other artists a little more care and compassion, before I destroy any little piece of self-confidence they have, through potentially thoughtless and unwarranted criticism. I don't have to like people's work to appreciate it. To accept whatever is being presented comprises, it has value just as it is. It doesn't need me to decide if it has value. It just does. No, I don't need to like it, understand it, to get it. Whoever placed me as judge and jury. And so, what legacy does this leave me with? Has this experience benefited me as an artist, or a student of the arts at least, or maybe even as a human being? Well, yeah, I like to think so. And coincidentally, the three-pronged coming together has seemingly resulted in a three-pronged benefit in kind. So here is my post-BAS8 manifesto. Number 1, I am committed to attempt to view and accept art for what it is, whatever it is, based on the experience I have at the time and that alone, untainted by my prejudice, preconceptions, opinions and bias. 2, I refuse, as an artist, to allow my creativity to be pigeonholed and restricted just to please an audience, and to ensure that my art challenges me as a creator and hopefully, in turn, those who view it. And 3, and probably most importantly, I will grow a very thick skin. If you like what I do, then great, but if not, that's still okay. After all, we're all victims of our circumstance and subject to human failings and frailties. And in preparing this, there was a few quotes that I stumbled across. An American writer and author, Robert Brault. The artist gazes upon reality and creates his own impression. The viewer gazes upon the impression and creates his own reality. An American educator, Jeff Dixon. Art doesn't have to matter to a lot of people to matter a lot. And finally, there's some guy called Andy Warhol. And he says, don't think about making art, just get it done. Let everyone else decide if it's good or bad, whether they love it or hate it. And while they're deciding, make even more art. And that kind of brings me fairly tidily on to the second point, which is contemporary art in the regions. Now, given my mild rant that I've just given, you might well expect me to throw my hands up in despair, exclaiming, what's the point? If the overwhelming reaction from the great unwashed is to poo-poo the work being presented in the British Art Show, well, you'd be wrong. Because isn't that precisely the point? And hasn't it been the case throughout history? What is art if it doesn't challenge its audience? to evoke emotions, to provide a platform for impassioned debate. Let's stick with pie, chips and gravy, because I'm not going to subject my dainty outside London taste buds to any of that spicy stuff. None of that foreign muck for me, thank you very much. That's the last time. 40,000 years ago, in El Castillo in Spain, I'm 100% sure that when Mrs. Cave Dweller discovered Mr. Cave Dweller drawing on the walls of their subterranean dwelling, she probably grunted to something along the lines of, "What the bloody hell do you think you're doing?" And Mr. Cave Dweller, standing back to admire his efforts while smoking a local hallucinant of choice, grunted in reply, "It's art, man." To which, no doubt, the response was, "Art my arse. Now get off your lazy, hairy, prehistoric backside and go kill me a dodo for supper." And so the great art debate began. Let's take contemporary art out of the capital cities of the world and into the regions. It's not just a nice idea. I think the art world has a duty to do so. And actually, aren't we being just a little patronising to assume that people outside the likes of New York, London and Paris are so artistically inept and creatively stunted that they are completely unable to appreciate modern works of art by contemporary artists, in whatever form that might be? Take a walk around Tate Modern in London and have a look at the diversity of the people milling around the audience. Are these all Londoners? Bankers, barristers, politicians, actors, university lecturers? I apologise. No, you know, the self-styled intellectual superiors of society. For surely, only they can appreciate the works on display. Well, no. Of course they're not. They are people like you, like me, like Mrs. Brown down the road. Well, perhaps not exactly like Mrs. Brown, seeing as she's on husband number 6, each one of numbers 1 to 5 having met their demise in somewhat suspicious mild mushroom poisoning circumstances. But you catch my drift. People travel to the capital cities in their hundreds and thousands to experience the world of contemporary art because generally that's where it is. If a mountain won't come to Muhammad, then Muhammad must go to the mountain. So in this particular case, in respect of BAS8 heading out into the regions, maybe I am making a mountain out of a molehill. But if just one member of the audience, one community group, one local artist or art student engages with art because it is being brought to their hometown, then your work here is done. And as an artist, for sure, I aspire to having my pieces displayed in the top galleries across the capital cities of the world. Who wouldn't? But having had a piece I created as a response to BAS8 displayed in my local Southampton City Art Gallery, that's equally as rewarding and exciting, for now at least. What is more, from a personal perspective, having now experienced the diverse, creative talent within my local community through BAS8 coming to town and getting involved in it, I am more likely to continue my studies within the area, rather than perhaps relocate to study at more highly regarded art universities in London and elsewhere. Potentially, my post-studies art practice is now also more likely to be based in Southampton. And just maybe, as such, we, who have been shaped and identified through our life experiences within our community here in the South, we might just be able to enrich that same community in some small way. Thank you.